Welcome, Knowledge Noggins, everybody, to episode 10. You are listening to part 2 of the Tragedy of Syd Barrett. You are listening to Pick the Mind with your host, Chet Banks. And here we go.
Here we go.
Pick the Mind. Syd's later years in February 1972, after a few guest spots in Cambridge with ex-Pink Fairies member Twink on drums and Jack Monk on bass using the name The Last Minute Put Together Boogie Band, the trio formed a short-lived band called Stars, and one of their gigs at the Corn Exchange in Cambridge proved to be disastrous as fuck. A few days after this final show, Twink recalled that Syd stopped him on the street, showed him a scathing review of the gig they had played, and quit on the spot, despite having played at least one subsequent gig at the same venue supporting the band Nectar. Free from his EMI contract on May 9th, 1972, Syd signed a document that ended his association with Pink Floyd and any financial interest in future recordings. How tragic. It's a shame this happened to him. Syd attended an informal jazz and poetry performance by Pete Brown and former Cream bassist Jack Bruce in October 1973. Brown read out a poem which he dedicated to Syd because, quote, "He's here in Cambridge, and he's one of the best songwriters in the country," motherfucking quote. By the end of 1973, Syd had returned to live in London, staying at various hotels, and in December of that year, settling in Chelsea Cloisters. He had little contact with others, apart from his regular visits to his management offices to collect his royalties, and the occasional visit from his sister, Rosemary. In August 1974, Jenner persuaded Syd to return to Abbey Road Studios in hope of recording another album. According to John Leckie, who engineered these sessions, even at this point Syd still looked like he did when he was younger. Long hair. The sessions lasted 3 days and consisted of blues rhythm tracks and disjointed guitar overdubs. Syd recorded 11 tracks, the only one of which to be titled was If You Go, Don't Be Slow. Once again, Syd withdrew from the music industry, but this time for good. He sold the rights to his solo albums back to the record label and moved into a London hotel. During this time, several attempts to employ him as a record producer were all fruitless as motherfuck. In 1978, when Syd ran out of money, he moved back to Cambridge to live with his mother, Hilary. He returned to live in London again in 1982, but lasted only a few weeks and soon returned to Cambridge for good. Syd walked the 50 miles from London to Cambridge. Damn, that's a long walk. Until his death, Syd received royalties from his work with Pink Floyd from each compilation and some of the live shows and studio albums and singles that featured his songs. Gilmour stated, quote, "I made sure the money got to him." In 1996, Syd was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Pink Floyd, but he did not attend the Muh F ceremony. Man, that's a shame. He was probably depressed and lost. Although, according to a 2005 profile in the book Madcap by biographer and journalist Tim Willis, Syd, who had reverted to using his original name Roger, continued to live in his late mother's semi-detached home in Cambridge and had returned to painting, creating large abstract canvases. He was also said to have been an avid gardener, and his main point of contact with the outside world was his sister Rosemary, who actually lived nearby. He had turned into a recluse, and his physical health declined, as he suffered from stomach ulcers and type 2 diabetes. That's shitty shit, bruh. Even though Syd did not appear or speak in public since the 1970s, time did little to diminish interest in his life and work. Reporters and fans still traveled to Cambridge to seek him out, despite his attempts to live a quiet life and public appeals from his family for people to leave him the fuck alone. Come on, leave the guy alone. Leave him alone, motherfucks. Many photos of Syd being harassed by paparazzi when walking or cycling from the 1980s until his death in 2006 have been published by various media. Apparently, Syd did not like being reminded about his musical career, and the other members of Pink Floyd had no direct contact with him. However, he did visit his sister's house in November 2001 to watch the BBC ominous directory. I'm not talking about doctors. To watch the BBC omnibus documentary made about him. He found some of it to be, quote, a bit noisy. He enjoyed seeing Mike Leonard and Leonard's Lodgers again, calling him his teacher, and he enjoyed hearing See Emily Play again. I would too, Syd. I would too. Do you want a pink nipple gummy from marijuana? Syd made a final public acknowledgement of his musical past in 2002, which was his first since the 1970s when he autographed 320 Muh F copies of photographer Mick Rock's book Psychedelic Renegades, which contained a number of photos of Syd. Wouldn't it be cool to have an autograph from Syd Barrett? That'd be dope, Knowledge Noggins. Rock was perhaps the last person in the music industry whom Syd kept in contact with. In 1971, Mick Rock conducted Syd's final interview before his retirement from the music industry a few years later, and Syd subsequently turned up on Mick London's doorstep 4, maybe 5 times for a cup of tea and conversation through 1978, before Syd moved back to Cambridge. They had not spoken in more than 20 years when Mick approached Syd to autograph his photography book, and Syd agreed. Excuse fuck me. Having reverted to his birth name Roger, Syd had autographed the book simply Barrett. After suffering from diabetes for several years, Syd died at home in Cambridge on July 7th, 2006. He was 60 years old and the cause of death was pancreatic cancer. Rest in peace, Syd Barrett. You are a great genius. The occupation on his death certificate was retired musician. He was cremated with his ashes given to a family member or a friend. In 2006, his home in St. Margaret's Square, Cambridge, was put on the market and reportedly attracted considerable interest. After over 100 showings, many of which were fans, it was sold to a French couple who bought it simply because they liked it. And it said the couple didn't even know about Syd. On November 28, 2006, Syd's other possessions were sold at an auction at Cheffins auction house in Cambridge, raising £120,000 for charity. Items sold included paintings, scrapbooks, and everyday items Syd had that he had decorated. NME produced a tribute issue to Syd a week later with a photo of him on the cover. In an interview with the Sunday Times, Syd's sister revealed that he had written a book. Quote, he read very deeply about the history of art and actually wrote an unpublished book about it. But he found his own mind so absorbing that he didn't want it to be distracted. Unquote. That's probably a terrible accent, and I'm sorry, but then again, I'm not sorry. I wonder if that book was ever published. I guess it wasn't. I would like to get my hands on that book. That'd be awesome, right? According to newspapers, Syd left £1.7 million to his brothers and 2 sisters. The sum was apparently largely acquitted from royalties from Pink Floyd compilations and live recordings featuring songs he had written while with the band. A tribute concert called Madcap's Last Laugh was held at the Barbican Centre in London on May 10, 2007. A series of events called the City Wakes was held in Cambridge in Success Arts charity Escape Artists announced plans to create a centre in Cambridge using art to help people suffering from mental health problems. A memorial bench has been placed in the Botanic Gardens in Cambridge and a more prominent tribute is planned in the city. Syd had one noted reunion with the members of Pink Floyd in 1975 during the recording sessions for Wish You Were Here. He attended the Abbey Road session unannounced and watched the band working on the final mix of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which was a song about him. And Pink Floyd fans will already know that shit. And a great song. By that time, he was 29 years old and had become quite overweight, shaved off all of his hair, even his eyebrows, which is also referenced in the Wall movie. His former bandmates didn't even initially recognize him. Syd's behavior at the session was erratic. He spent part of the session brushing his teeth. Roger Waters finally managed to ask him what he thought of the song, and he said it sounds a bit old. He briefly attended the reception for Gilmour's wedding to his wife Ginger that immediately followed the recording sessions, but Syd left without exchanging any goodbyes. Gilmour and Ginger later divorced in 1990. Oh, love. Don't you love love? He had a brief encounter between Roger Waters when Syd saw Waters. Syd ran outside, dropping his bag full of sweets in the process. This was the last time any member of Pink Floyd saw Syd Barrett. As stated earlier, Syd wrote most of Pink Floyd's material. He was also an innovative guitarist, using extended techniques and exploring the musical and possibilities of dissonance, distortion, feedback, the echo machine, tapes, and other effects. His experimentation was partly inspired by free improvisation guitarist Keith Rowe of the group AMM. One of Syd's trademarks was playing his guitar through an old echo box while sliding a Zippo lighter up and down the fretboard to create the mysterious otherworldly sounds that became associated with the group. Syd was known to have used Benson delay units to achieve his trademark echo sounds. David Allen, founder of Soft Machine and Gong, has cited Syd's use of slide guitar with echo as a key inspiration for his own glissando guitar style. His performance with Pink Floyd and solo albums were delivered with a strong British accented vocal delivery, specifically that of Southern England. He was described by Guardian writer Nick Kent as having a quintessential English style of vocal projection. David Bowie was quoted as saying that Syd was the first person he had heard sing rock or pop music with a British accent. Syd's free-form sequences of sonic carpets pioneered a new way to play the rock guitar. He played several different guitars, including an old Harmony hollow body electric, a Harmony acoustic, a Fender acoustic, a single-coil Dan Electro 59 DC, and several Telecasters and Stratocasters, motherfucks. A silver Fender Esquire with mirrored disc glued to the body was the guitar he was most often associated with and the guitar he felt most close to. Syd's first acoustic guitar is on display in a glass case. He also has a bench dedicated to him that looks over a beautiful water fountain. Oh, how nice. Oh my god. Syd also has an influence on alternative and punk music in general. According to a critic, John Harris, he said, quote, "To understand his place in modern music, you probably have to first go back to punk rock and its misguided attempt to kick aside what remained of the psychedelic 1960s. Given that the Clash and the Sex Pistols have had made brutal social commentary obligatory, there seemed little room for any of the creative exotica that had defined the love decade until, slowly but surely, singing about dead ends, lives, and dull cues began to pall, and at least some of the previous generation were rehabilitated. Syd was the best example, having crashed out of Pink Floyd before the advent of indulgent progressive rock and succumbed to a fate that appealed to the punk generation's nihilism. He underwent a revival. Unmotherfucking quote. Syd Barrett's decline had a profound effect on Roger Waters' songwriting, and the theme of mental illness permeated Pink Floyd's later albums, particularly the 1973's The Dark Side of the Moon and the 1975's Wish You Were Here, which was a deliberate and affectionate tribute to Syd. The songs Shine On You Crazy Diamond and also The Wall, Wish You Were Here, partly about Syd. Fucking love Dark Side of the Moon. Probably the best album they have in my opinion. Johnny Depp showed interest in a biographical film based on Syd Barrett's life. Syd is portrayed briefly in the opening scene of Tom Stoppard play rock and roll performing Golden Hair. Golden Hair is a great song from Syd's solo album The Madcap Laughs. If you haven't heard it, you should probably go check it out. Noggins. There have been much speculation concerning Syd's psychological well-being. His family has denied that he suffered from mental illness, but in a 2016 interview, his sister Rosemary said that his mind was brilliant, bordering on that seen in Asperger's syndrome. Cheeseburgers in the ass. Syd's use of psychedelic drugs, especially LS, Muh F, during the late 60s is well documented, and there were theories he subsequently suffered from schizophrenia, as stated earlier. Rick Wright asserts that Syd's problem stemmed from a massive overdose of acid, as the change in his personality and behavior came on quite suddenly. However, Roger Waters maintains that Syd suffered, without a doubt, from schizophrenia. And in an article published in 2006, in response to notions that Syd's problems came from the drug, David Gilmour was quoted saying, "In my opinion, his nervous breakdown would have happened anyway. It was a deep-rooted thing. But I'll say that psychedelic experience might have created a catalyst. Still, I just still don't think he could deal with the vision of success and all the things that went with it, and I still just think he's still fucking awesome and still such a great guy." He didn't say it quite like that, but unfuck quote. Having said all of that, this brings us to our next segment, Knowledge Noggins, and you know what that is. With some interesting motherfucking facts about Pink Floyd. Interesting facts. How interesting. Interesting fact number 1. Pink and Floyd, the band's name, Pink Floyd, is actually the name of two different people. South Carolina bluesman Pink Anderson and North Carolina bluesman Floyd Council. Syd Barrett was a very big fan of both of them. Interesting fact number 2. When Roger, Richard, and Nick met, the founder-member of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, Richard Wright, and Nick Mason met at the London Polytechnic in the year 1963 while studying architecture. This institute is now known as the University of Westminster. Interesting fact number 3. A low-tech startup. Pink Floyd is known for its live performances and visual effects. At the beginning of their career, they used slide projectors and also colored condoms stretched over lights to bring the visual effects. Creativity really has come a long way, hasn't it? Interesting fact number 4. Rebellion, or Revolution, or Stupidity. The most successful single of Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, was a song written to protect against boarding schools and rigid school policies. They were influential, and this one is a good influence. Schools are just creating what the corporates need. Boxed brains to serve them the way they want. Like the army. They got it all upside down. Interesting fact number 5. David Gilmour has quite the guitar collection. He even owns the Fender Stratocaster with the first serial number. That's cool. That's pretty... Oh my god. Interesting fact number 6. Kids sued Pink Floyd. If you have heard Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, then you'll remember the chorus of school children singing the line, "We don't need no education." In the year 2004, these school children who are adults now, filed a lawsuit against the band and demanded to get paid. It ultimately proved unsuccessful. We need education, but not rigidity. Rigidity. There it is. That's how you say that word. And schools are not necessary for education. One must appear for exams and get a degree, but you can study on your own. They weren't against education, but schooling. It just sounds like these kids were trying to get money. Damn motherfucking fools. Interesting fact number 7. The song Arnold Lane is based on a real thief. Roger Waters knew the man, and he used to steal women's knickers and clothes from the washing lines. Sounds like a fucking weirdo. If you got a dude stealing underwear and stuff, watch out for that guy. Oh no. Interesting fact number 8. In the year 1972, Pink Floyd released an album which was recorded when the band was playing in an amphitheater in Pompeii without any audience. Now that's authentic. Interesting fact number 9. The Dark Side of the Moon is the most successful album of Pink Floyd. It was so successful that it was on the charts for 591 consecutive weeks, or 11.5 years in Billboard Top 200. That is why it has been recorded in the Guinness World Book of Records, and in some Billboard charts, it was for a staggering 26 fucking years. Holy cow! Interesting fact number 10. The front cover of Dark Side of the Moon was decided in 3 minutes. For the cover of this album, there were 7 options. When asked which one to choose, all the members of the band chose the one with the prism. I'm glad they chose that because it's pretty sweet, even though I didn't see any of the other ones. Interesting fact number 11. In the year 1990, radio listeners in Australia voted that Dark Side of the Moon was the best album to have sex to. Fuck me, yes. Really? Well, maybe that's why it was on the top charts for so long. All those polyamorous sluts. Fucking to it, smoking Mary Jane. Mary. You slut. Maybe I'll ask a girl on a date, and instead of Netflix and chill, we can Dark Side of the Moon and chill. You feel me? Know what I'm saying? Interesting fact number 12, their final album, The Endless River, which was released on November 7th, 2014, is the 15th album by Pink Floyd. It is also the most pre-ordered album of all time on the Amazon United Kingdom. Interesting fact number 13, the last album of Pink Floyd, The Endless River, was recorded in the boathouse of David Gilmour. The studio in the boathouse was small, but the ambiance made it an interesting recording session for Pink Floyd. Well, that would be fun. Well, that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time, Knowledge Noggins. Syd Barrett, what a genius. I'm glad we still have the music to listen to, though. I love all of the albums. They are so magical and make me feel fuzzy inside. I will see you next time. We're going to tell some ghost stories in episode 11. Much love and peace out, motherfucks.